in case you missed it. It's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
I apologize for my shoddy clock management today. Blakemore, the floor is yours.
Well, a lot of news happened. There's plenty of places we could go. Let's start here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
It should be said that the Wild play tonight at Grand Casino Arena. That's at 7.
The Red Hot Wild.
You could say that.
Yeah.
They finally get back in the win column, 5-2 win over the Canucks.
Who we got tonight?
The Predators, the Nashville Predators.
Okay.
The Preds. That's at 7 o'clock. You'll hear it right here on the Fan pregame starting at 6:45. Same lineup for the Wild, which means no Danila Yurov in the lineup, the second straight game. That's no fun. Other than that, a Gus starting as well. The Gus bus in net.
So we're looking to, have we won 2 in a row yet this year? And we won the opener big, and then we immediately lost. The road trip was a disaster. I don't think we've won 2 in a row.
They have not won 2 in a row this year.
So we don't ask, let's stay conservative. We're not asking for a 5-game winning streak. Let's just get to 2. Let's see if we can win 2 straight games in regulation. And you said Gus Bus is in the net?
Yes.
Fair enough. Louis is going to join us with more on your favorite hockey team at 5:30.
We'll go NFL trade deadline. Plenty of stuff has happened. I think the biggest one, without question, Colts trading 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. That's a big-time swing, and that's a we want to win and we want to win now move.
Yeah, that's true.
For the Colts.
We did not do anything. Well, I know there's some disappointment there. There's still some talk about who's going to end up signing, because now that he's cleared medically, Asante Samuel Jr. Seifert had no steam on the Vikings being in on that. Doesn't mean they're not, but doesn't have any sense of any momentum there. That was, I think the position is the logical place for looking to look for help. If you remember the Vikings, you could make the argument that running back might be another one. We didn't talk about that with Kevin. Jones comes back and reminds us just how dynamic he still can be, because he set the tone in that game, and I think took a lot of the heat off the QB early. And then he got hurt again. So that's part of the issue is, keeping him on the field. We know he can be helpful, but it's keeping him on the field is the issue. So I might have looked for some help there, but we're, as far as I know, staying the course. As I mentioned, the Ravens got an edge rusher. That's the team we play on Sunday that might help them a little bit. You can go with the Seifert argument, which is, we got a bunch of acquisitions because we got a bunch of people getting healthy as each week goes by. So I wish the NFL trade deadline, and it's more active than it used to be, but I kind of wish it was even more active. But we, in the end, did exactly what the Minnesota Twins did. Well, actually, that's not even fair. In this last trade deadline, to match the Twins, the Vikings would have had to trade away like 5 legitimate players, right? Gut a section of their roster, which we know that the Twins did at the deadline.
Well, I was just about to say, that's the Pollad excuse is, we got a bunch of new signings.
Correct.
It's the guys that are coming back from injury. Some few other trades to rattle off here and just stop me when something interests you. One of my top 5 favorite names to say in the NFL, the Seahawks get Rashid Shaheed from the Saints. They get a couple mid-round picks for him. Jags are getting Jacoby Myers from the Raiders for a couple picks as well. And then your Bears, the Monsters of the Midway, get a defensive end. I'm going to go with Joe Tyron Shoyinka. I have no idea how to say that.
Close enough.
Yeah.
They lost an edge rusher, a defensive end at least, earlier this season to injury. So I think this is just they were in desperate need of getting some help there. I don't know if, how much it moves the needle, but like I said, back in the day there was almost nothing from a trade standpoint that happened. It's getting bigger as time goes on. More teams are approaching it the way baseball teams do that are out of it, where you go, okay, well, who are we kidding? We might as well see if we can get a little mileage, get some draft picks, and get some capital moving forward.
The other big one was the Cowboys getting Quinnen Williams from the Jets, defensive tackle as well. Do you want to go Wolves or Wacky? I've got Probably time for one more.
Let's go Wolves.
Let's go Wolves. We'll keep it there. Big win in Brooklyn, 125-109. Your thoughts coming out of that game?
Well, we're very good at beating bad teams right now, which is sort of the mantra for the Golden Gopher football team as well. And they, probably the game was competitive longer than it should have been, but in the end, they took care of business. And you mentioned Randall, triple-double for him. And in fact, we're reminded, I think he's on one of the late night talk shows tonight.
Fallon.
It's the Fallon show tonight. Yeah, because the Wolves are staying in New York to take on the Knicks. I think that game's tomorrow night against their old teammate Cat.
I made up this report, but they wanted to go for Anthony Edwards, but they couldn't trust him on FCC
Wow.
airwaves. I'm telling you,
Well, by the way, he's now upgraded, I think, to questionable for the Wolves game against the Knicks tomorrow night.
Do you want one more?
Real quick.
Tom Brady claims that his dog is a clone. He said, "I love my animals. They mean the world to me and my family. A few years ago, I worked with Colossal and leveraged their non-invasive cloning technology to a sample blood draw of our family's elderly dog before she passed."
Man,
Tom Brady's dog is a clone.
That's a great idea. Huh? Now, I'm assuming that wasn't cheap, but I'm assuming for Tom Brady, you can pocket that bill.
Probably
if you have the access to that. Yeah.
Honestly.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there was a movie. What was the dog movie in which it wasn't a clone situation, but the spirit of one dog showed up in another? Dennis Quaid was in the movie. People will remind me of it. It's a very emotional film. Most dog movies are. I blubbered several times through it, but that was the bit.
Purpose.
That's it. Dog's purpose is exactly right. Fine. Motion picture. How does Brett not mention Sauce Gardner? You did at the start, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the first trade.
You got to pay attention, man. 612 guy's way too aggressive. I mean, that was the first trade that he mentioned. Before you call somebody else an idiot, 612 guy, look in the mirror, man. Or be a little bit more patient. Or if you just turned on the radio, don't assume that we start when you're ready to start. Idiot is a kind of a strong term, especially when you're the one exposed and revealed for having not even paid attention to exactly how he started the whole trade deadline bit. Let's come back with a shorty regarding the new Twins manager officially unveiled today, and then we'll prepare for Lou Nanne at 5:30.
The Fan and 2 Men in a Junk Truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is grand this hour. Keyword grand, KFAN.com. Keyword grand. Join the Fans Corey Cove this Friday at Willie McCoy's in Champlin for Coors Light Hockey Night. Drop by starting at 6 p.m. See Minnesota take on New York. Enjoy ice-cold Coors Light specials and play trivia for your chance to win great prizes, including sweet tickets to a game in January. Full details now, KFAN.com. Keyword count.
Twins introduced their latest manager, I suggested via X, my pre-show tweet, their latest sacrificial lamb, Derek Shelton. The rumor was that he was going to join us in studio this week. I don't know if that's still confirmed. Guardsy is doing B-job duties today. He's preparing for Golden Gopher women's basketball,
knowledge.
So I think it is tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Derek Shelton. Officially introduced. And Shelton said what you got to say. Every night when you come to the ballpark, you'll see a team that competes. I'm not using the term rebuild. We're going to develop young players, and we have good young players. He doesn't have to use the word rebuild. I don't expect that he'd use the word rebuild at all, but that's what we're in, unless the news changes dramatically in the next several months. And I'm not holding my breath on any of that. He's in I don't want to say a no-win situation because I'm sure he's being paid reasonably. There ain't that many managerial jobs that come open, and you're going to take them if you can. He's been here before. Strikes most baseball people as a very capable baseball guy himself. And we've talked about this, frankly, when Rocco would come here. I mean, Rocco, the manager is always in a difficult position because the manager realistically isn't going to say, we're limited, or we haven't really done much to help our team. They're not going to say that. You take the job, you're sort of in it in a way that means you have to play the game with the folks who run the team. But the reality is, for a lot of people, that the hope was, again, no, this is not a criticism of Shelton. It was more right place, right time. The best case might be somebody less connected that can come in and maybe ruffle some feathers and maybe try things a little bit of a different way. And this comes off as a country club-ish kind of a decision to go the route that they did with a guy who'd been here before, was under consideration before, and is not likely, I think, to make waves. And we'll try to get into some of that with him, honestly as possible tomorrow, knowing, again, that he's not going to realistically say, well, I was actually very disappointed when they gutted the bullpen at the trade deadline last year. Are there things he might be able to do with some of the young players? Maybe. And a lot of this, again, is, all right, well, what are we in? Are we going to, the ongoing question is, is Joe Ryan back? We know about his situation. I'm guessing he wants out. Who wouldn't, if you're competitive at all? And if they decide to trade him away, it's a total rebuild at that point, right? So even with young, interesting pitchers that you might have, he's a prisoner to things that are beyond his control. Just like I think Rocco, to an extent, was a prisoner to things beyond his control. And largely, the direction this franchise takes, the shape it takes, has less to do with the manager and more to do with what approach ownership's going to take to the payroll, to lots of other things, correct? I mean, we still don't know the name of the investors, these mystery investors that allegedly were going to change everything. And we're back to not really believing that means that money is going to be put back into the operation. So, again, he'll be a good soldier. He'll fight the good fight. He has to a certain extent. And, he can come in with a good attitude because he hasn't had to live through what we've seen take place the last couple of seasons. And it may ultimately wear him down the same way that I think ultimately it wore Rocco down, although Rocco was, how he always is when he talked to Lavelle, very magnanimous, very philosophical, no hard feelings. That's just not the Rocco approach either. So it's sad when you're in a situation where you almost feel like the manager is irrelevant. Not, again, because he doesn't have any ability, but because of these forces, massive forces beyond his control. It should matter who you hire as manager. He should be able to do some, if you make the right choice, do some things, and maybe they'll be better in the base pass. Maybe they'll be more aggressive. Maybe they'll be feistier. Who knows? We'll find out. But again, there's only so much you can do if the team is hell-bent on, whether he wants to use the term or not, starting over or rebuilding or whatever. Because this bullpen literally has to be rebuilt. There's no other expression for it when 5 relief pitchers, your best relief pitchers, are all traded away at the trade deadline. Let's take a pause here, and let's talk some puck when we come back. Luigi, Tuesday regular, is indeed going to join us. If you have questions for Louie, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. That number is 64686. We'll get to a couple of texts as well, and maybe even a done as a society election night, election day issue for us to try to raise before we wrap things up today at 6:15.
Well, she sneaks around the world from here to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a It's Lobo, Six China. Tell me where in the world is
New Nanny.
It's only from
We ain't here. We know that, even though it's an absolutely gorgeous early November day that even Luigi, warm weather Luigi would appreciate. Before we say hi to Louie, brought to you by Kemp's, quick update on a UPS plane that apparently has crashed shortly after takeoff near the Louisville, Kentucky airport. It's an MD-11 plane, a very well-known jet in many passenger fleets, commercial passenger fleets as well. And apparently it crashed shortly after takeoff near the airport. UPS Flight 2976 crashing just after 4 p.m. Central Time, headed to Honolulu, according to a statement from the FAA, which is investigating the crash, along with the NTSB. 3 crew members on the plane, according to statements from UPS that said in part, at this time, we've not confirmed any injuries or fatalities. Louis now, as I said, joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I'm assuming you're in Florida this week, correct?
Correct. Yep, I'm home in Florida.
Good temperatures, low humidity right now?
Yeah, beautiful. 20 degrees warmer than you, 76, a little wind. It was a gorgeous day.
Yeah, that's not a bad
nice to take a walk, right?
combo. When do the leaves turn in Florida, Louis? And of course, the palm trees, I guess they never turn, right? But do any trees turn? When does fall hit in Florida?
That I don't know if there
is. There a fall?
There are only palm trees around me. I haven't seen any other trees,
yeah.
So I don't know if they turn. It's
maybe they don't come up. Maybe
on the water.
Yeah, maybe the temperature never gets. So we got some Florida people who'll be able to tell us if the leaves ever turn in Florida, because you have a lot better chance of knowing compared to me. Your Wild Club back in action tonight, as you know, and as I mentioned earlier, if you have hockey questions or comments for Louis, 64686 is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line as well. We needed a victory. We finally got one, but we, came off of a pretty unproductive road trip and have not done all that much to this point, at least, with the 6-game homestand that followed. I don't know how much, if you got to see much or all of our victory. Was it 5-2 the other day?
Right. Yeah.
Do we right the ship? Do we need to see more than just one game? What were your impressions?
Well, of course, you got to see more than one. But what I liked the best was the fact that they won without getting Kaprizov and Boldy on the board. So, they're going to score, and they might have a game off. Boldy will probably score tonight. He hasn't scored for a while. But to get some other production, that was really important. And to just give up 2 goals, because the big thing about the Wild right now, when you look at the teams in the league, they got one of the highest for goals against statistics. They're minus 12 in the for goals against, which is just about the worst, and that's where they got to get better. In other words, they got to give up less goals and score more, and that'll be foundation for getting better in the standings. But when you get the other line scoring like that, and you get some other production, that makes you more of a believer, because those other guys haven't scored much at all. When they finally get on the board, that's good. And when you know that you're going to get production, Kaprizov leads in both goals with 9 and assists with 7 on the team, so he's going to continue to do that. And Boldy will too, and he hasn't. He's been in a longer drought, and he's about due.
Are we already? Have enough games been played that for you there's already some very considerable concerns? Is it too early to go into that mode? I mean, we've talked in the past about the importance of not getting too far behind the 8 ball, right? Where you got too much ground to make up. We a year ago, this team, I think on December 4th, they had the best record in hockey. And it was great. In fact, you could argue that all that equity is what allowed them to survive enough to actually end up making, by the skin of their teeth, the postseason. But we're certainly not seeing any signs early that they're going to get off to that kind of start. Are you already at the point of great concern, or is it like 50% concern? What's your percentage of concern right now?
Well, 50% would be good to state it, but what you just said is exactly what happened last year. Was the equity they built up at the beginning of the year put them in the playoffs because they had to score in the last 20 seconds.
That's right.
The last game.
That's right. Literally, yes.
So that was a big difference. And now, when you look at where they are right now, point-wise, they're about fourth last in their division, which is also below anybody in the other conference. So it's concerning. You anytime you've played 1/6 of the schedule and you're trailing a lot of teams, when you look at where you have to go to get the playoffs, you have to jump so many teams, and right now they got to jump 4, and actually 5 to just make up that wild card position. So you never like to get too far behind because points are tough to make up, and you have to realize that everybody's going to have ups and downs during the year, and you're just hopeful that this was your down and the rest of the year is going to be an up.
This is from Don, the Delusional. He calls himself Don the Delusional. Love to hear Louis' opinion on why Matt Boldy is so streaky. Sometimes he carries them offensively. Other times he goes 10 or more games without making so much as a ripple. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think he goes 10 or more games too often without making a ripple. So he's a little streaky, but not a lot streaky. It's tough to score in this league, and a lot depends on who you're playing with too. If they're able to, capitalize on some of the opportunities you're giving them, or they're given to you, that's a difference as well. I'm not concerned about Boldy. I've seen too much of him over the years, of how well he can handle the puck, how good he sees the ice, and how smart he is on the ice. You're gonna have some droughts, but I'm not concerned about him. Yeah, would you like to see him consistent throughout the year? But a lot of people aren't consistent throughout the year. Most of the people aren't consistent throughout the year. Look, what was it, 44 goals for Ovechkin last year in 62 games? Look what he's going through now.
Yeah.
I know he's 40, but still, you wouldn't expect that from him. It happens to just about every. Connor McDavid, look when he started the season, how long it was before he got a goal. So I'm not as concerned about Boldy. Like I said, I think he'll probably score tonight. I really do. I have a great deal of confidence in him. He's a premier player, and he's not one of the concerns I have with the Wild.
Tarasenko, we've talked about him before. He had obviously a nice scoring game, which I think you may have alluded to when we were talking about, people outside of Kaprizov. If this team is going to reemerge and sort of get established, how key is him becoming, I'm not saying scoring every night like he did the other night, but being the sort of consistent scorer, difference maker to a certain extent that we remember he's capable of being, but hasn't really been in a while? Does he have to be a big part of this success?
All depends what you mean by big. He's got to be a part of this for sure, and he's got to score more than he did last year. He's got to score more than he has thus far this year. If you look at his track record, his history, he's been a phenomenal scorer in the league. He's had a tremendous career coming up to the last 2 years, and you're just hoping he hasn't fallen off the table right now, and he could get back. He has the smarts, he has the ability to score, and I think that it's really important when you group 3 guys in a team. Right now, the keys of this hockey team are probably Tarasenko, Johansson, and Zuccarello. Because you're expecting production from Kaprizov, you're expecting production from Boldy and Rossi, now and Eriksson. So now you have to have those other 3 guys coming through when Zuccarello starts playing, and Tarasenko has got to keep playing it at a level where he's producing a little more than he was earlier in the year, but at a level that he's been producing at. And we know what Zuccarello can do when he comes in, especially when he's playing with Kaprizov. When he starts generating points and generating plays because he is a fantastic playmaker for Kaprizov. They fit each other like hand and glove. So those three guys right now are essentially the key to the forwards on this hockey team.
Are we making a mistake? I think Urhoff, Blakemore confirmed that Urhoff is out again tonight, coach's decision. So are you okay with that during the course of a season, mixing or matching? Or is this fall into the classification of you got to keep some of these guys out there just to see exactly what they can give you long term?
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. I think that kid's somebody you have to develop, and
yep.
and it concerns me a little bit because I don't know what effect it's got on his mind. He's
yep.
a young Russian kid, which he's not very conversant in the English language yet, and you start putting him in a position where you're in, you're out. Why am I out? Why am I in? And it affects him more than a normal young player would be affected because it's tough to understand what the situation is. Plus, I think he's got ability. I think you got to ride some of these guys sometime. I know Ben Jones won some face-offs last game, but
right.
To me, you're not that desperate yet that this kid's got to be taken out of the lineup. No, I'm not happy with him being out.
This came in regarding my question about leaves turning in Florida. This is from Tampa Bay guy. He writes, leaves do not turn in Florida. However, in South Florida, iguanas get temporary paralysis and fall out of the trees when the temps get below 50 degrees. I swear I'm not making that up. Hockey note for Luigi, if he is willing. Steven Stamkos is a shell of himself in Nashville since leaving Tampa Bay. Any chance he returns or is shipped to his hometown of Toronto?
Well, I don't think there's no chance he's going to return to Toronto because they don't have the salary cap room for that guy to come in and go in that lineup. They already got some problems. They'd have to move some people, and I don't think at his age they'd be willing to make the moves necessary to add him to that lineup with that salary. And that's what happens when you get older. Sometimes you gradually wear down and go out of the lineup, and sometimes you fall off the table. And he didn't have a great year last year, and he's having even less of a year this year. Tampa Bay made a decision, and they thought that he wasn't worth the kind of money he wanted at the stage of his career that he was in. So they made the decision, let him go as a free agent, and he's a Hall of Fame player. He's a phenomenal player in the past, but he's not the same guy now, and that's where Nashville made a mistake in getting some of they've had a couple of these guys where they're on the downside of the curve, and when you get those guys, you still pay a lot of money because they've had the history, but you don't get the production that you expected to get, and that's when Nashville's in deep trouble again this year. They missed the playoffs last year, and they could miss it again this year.
All right, we've checked in on you regarding Gopher men's hockey. They've now fallen. They got swept by Wisconsin, I think, after getting swept by Duluth, right? UMD the previous weekend.
Yeah.
So I think we're 2-7-2 at this point. I don't know how many times we've, even in rebuilding, quote unquote, rebuilding years, we've been 2-7-2 at the start of the season. But at what point are you going to start getting a little bit worried that they're not going to come out of this that much?
Well, I'm worried about it now because when you give it that much, if you looked at the votes for the team for being ranked in the men's college pool, they got one vote, so they're way behind where they want to be. If they have any kind of chance of making the playoffs, they got to get rated in the top 14 essentially to have a chance near the end. And right now they're right out of it. They got to start taking some steps where they start winning games. They get close to the game and then they give it up, and youngsters make a lot of mistakes, and at the same time, there's nobody's going to forgive you for making mistakes and let you get in the game themselves. They've got to earn it. They've got to get it. And they got to play smarter, harder, and more competitive if they're going to get anywhere this year.
So if we went back, what's the right number of decades? Let's say we go back not that far. If we go back 20 years in college hockey, contrast the depth of competition then to today. Is that how far? I mean, is that enough time? Or do we have to go back even further? I mean,
You know the biggest difference today, and this is what's affecting the Gophers a bit. You had NIL come in, and when that came in, that allowed the Canadian juniors who never could play before, whether they come after they played 1 year or 3 years in junior, and you've got just an influx of players from the Canadian juniors right across from Ontario, the Prairies, and even Quebec, and so these guys are infused in the lineups of a lot of these teams. And you've added some very talented hockey players that were ineligible before to these teams that have already had the experience. They're more experienced than the guys that have played little or no junior on the Gophers. These guys have played, and because some of them are so good, they've been playing at 16 or 17 in junior A hockey. And they're more advanced. In this league, right now, it's got some tremendous players. Starting with McKenna, and Penn State will probably be the number one pick. And some of these guys are here made some good money coming over. I think you're going to see more of this happening, and unfortunately, right now, if you want to be competitive in the college league, you're going to have to start getting some of these guys out of there that are the cream of the crop, because they are willing to come to the college leagues now after they play junior, and there's a big difference between junior and college. Junior, you're playing all the time, you don't train. College, you play on the weekends, you train all week. And so the college player, when he's finished playing, really is more ready to play in professional hockey than the junior player. You're going to have some junior players that are, just mind-boggling talents. Yeah, they're going to be ready. But overall, the college player is more physically and mentally ready to play in pros. So a lot of these kids are making that move.
Speaking of that, here's a Motzko recruiting tactics question. What about his tactics? Is he missing out on too many top prospects? Seems like he can't get a high talent to come here to be relevant year after year after year after year. Is that fair?
No, it's not, because he's had some unbelievable high talents. Just look at the guys that he's had the last 5-6 years. They're sort of top guys, young guys who went into the National Hockey League. In fact, Wood, that just left this year, he's one of the better point getters on Nashville is playing tonight. And no, he's had them, but now this year is a difference, because he hasn't got those junior players that some of these other guys have got out of Canada. In fact, I called him on one when I saw one guy was McKenna's lineman was thinking about going, and they were saying he was committed. I believe it was to Michigan State. I said, unless this guy signed, you know anything about him? And the fact was that he was getting a lot of NIL money, and he was basically already committed. So that's the change that's come to the college league.
Turk writes a follow-up regarding the leaves turning in Florida. Deciduous trees in Florida don't turn colors like orange and red like ours, but they absolutely drop their leaves in fall. Tampa Bay guy only told part of the story. It's turned into a controversy, Louis, just like everything else on this show. I had no idea it was going to be this controversial.
Well, it doesn't affect me because I'm on the water. And there's not
just palm trees there.
Trees around me. There's more palm trees. They're more inland.
Are you or were you a big dog guy? Did you guys throughout like your formative years and when you're first building the family and so forth? Did you guys always have a dog or ever have a dog?
We had a lot. We had two. I had two huskies, and then I had a husky. Then I got another husky after one was killed. I got to tell you that story. Then I had a Bouvier, and then I had another Bouvier when that one was killed. So we had big dogs. The bigger ones were the Bouviers because I liked them because they don't shed. They were rated by Money Management magazine as a number one 500 breeders named as number one dog for protection and family.
Family, yeah, right.
Yeah. The first dog I got was a husky, and I just loved the looks of a husky.
Beautiful.
My wife did as
Gorgeous
well.
dog, yeah.
And we had it in a husky. In those days, you didn't have to be in the leash that much, and we had the husky, and the husky would go to the bus stop every day and meet the kids.
Wow.
And come back with the kids, and just go and
just hang out, wait for them. Yeah,
she knew it. Yeah. And I come home. We played Montreal in the Stanley Cup quarterfinals in that would have been 1970, and I get back at 3:00 in the morning, and I get in. My wife was awake. She says, "Louis, Tasha didn't come home." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, Tasha went to meet the kids and didn't come home. And it's 3:00 in the morning, and now I'm just sick. And so I said, well, I got an idea. I set the alarm for 7:00. I got on the phone and woke up, got on the phone, and I called Steve Cannon, who was on WLOL. And I called Steve, and they put me through on the commercial break. Steve says, "Lou, great to hear from you, but good win last night." Because we'd beat Montreal the night before, the first time an expansion team ever beat an established team in the playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. I said, "Yeah." I said, "But you got to help me." I said, "What?" I said, "My dog didn't come home last night." He said, "Well, I can't do that because everybody'd be calling."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, we got to think of something." He said, "I got an idea." He said, "I'm going to call you back and talk to you because you got the winning goal last night in the playoffs. So we'll talk about that, and you get it in there." I said, "No problem." So he calls me back. "Oh, our guest today, Lou Nanne, just sorry to wake you up, Lou, but great win last night, and congratulations on your game-winning goal. You got to be happy." I said, "No, I'm not, Steve." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I have a dog. It's a husky, and our husky always goes to meet our kids at the bus stop, and we live over by Interlaken Country Club, right off Muir Lake Drive by Interlaken Boulevard. And if anybody sees that dog, here's my number, just call." Within 5 minutes, a truck driver was going by.
Wow.
Saw the dog in the ditch, called me.
Oh.
I went and picked the dog up, and unfortunately, his back was broken. We had to put her to sleep.
Oh, man, that's rough. That's not. I mean, I was hoping the story was happier than that. That somebody found the dog that quickly and was able to hold on to it. But man, that's a rough story. I bring it up not to make you sad about dogs that you've lost over the years, but to ask you an ethical question, maybe even a financial question. We come to find out that Tom Brady, Brady's current dog, Lua. No, I should back up. The family dog, Lua, the Brady lost back in December of 2023. So he reveals today in an interview with People magazine that his new dog, Junie, is a clone of Lua. So apparently Brady had got a deal with the biotech company Colossal Biosciences to create the clone shortly after Lua's death. So the question is whether you would be willing to spend $50,000 to clone any of your favorite dogs, the way apparently Tom Brady has done.
Well, a couple of situations. One, I don't have Tom Brady's money or even close to it.
Well, yeah.
Secondly, even in my modest means, $50,000 is too much. So
the answer's no.
I wouldn't, But I got to tell you, when my dog, when the back was broken, and I know this happens to everybody that has a dog or a cat that they love, and I took it into the vet. And I said, "Here's my dog. You got to fix it." Well, we don't know if we can. I said, "Doc, money's no object. Just fix this dog."
No question.
That's what you feel like at the time.
No doubt. 100%. That's what you feel. There's no question about it, man. There's nothing like them. All right, so you're out of the cloning business. I mean, you love your dogs, but that it's you just say, well, if we're going to get another one, it's just going to be another one, and we're not going to spend the $50,000 to make sure it's connected to the previous one.
That's for sure.
Okay, that's fair.
The dogs that I replaced, and it's not odd because other people probably do it, but my second husky was also called Tasha, Natasha, and my movie was called Sage. I got that name out of the book. It's like strategic air and ground, protection. It was some military term. And my second Bouvier, after the first one got run over, was also called Sage.
Is there a way? I'm wondering about this though. How would you feel if you were still a general manager and you were given an opportunity, if you could convince your owner to spend the money to clone Wayne Gretzky, to get some cells out of Wayne Gretzky that then can be injected into some other unsuspecting infant? You'd probably consider that, wouldn't you?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, we'd have to do that for sure.
That's different.
That's very different. Yeah, a lot more at stake. For sure.
In this day and age, you just want to get anywhere close to that type of ability.
That's for sure. Thanks as always. Outstanding work, and have fun down south. We'll talk to you next week.
Nice talking to you. Sounds good.
Thanks,
you.
Luigi. Lou Nanne from Florida, where I don't think the palm trees, I don't think they lose. They lose occasionally their fronds, but I don't think that's necessarily based on the time of year. But we'll have some palm tree experts who will let us know. One more segment before we wrap things up. Done as election night related, and we'll recap a couple of other points from today's very controversial show.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
This is the end, my only friend, the end.
Dateline, Chester County, Pennsylvania. And apparently, this is election day, obviously. An election night, one could say. And apparently, they weren't ready for it in Chester County. Chester County Voter Services reporting that the poll books at all precincts currently do not include the names of any third-party voters. Voter Services is in the process of sending supplemental poll books to all polling locations. I hope they pulled that off. But it's the old, cliche about you have one job. And it would seem as if that this would be a fairly big swing and miss. I think they did get it set up where individuals who were quote-unquote unaffiliated were still able to cast their ballots. I'm sure there'll be some Kessler discussion with the ramifications of a number of races that are being watched throughout the United States of America. We've got two mayoral races, obviously, here in Minneapolis and St. Paul as well, so that'll be part of the proceedings tomorrow. Why is everybody a Twitteralist? I don't know what it is, but for the record, we have a 651 guy clarify that when it comes to cloning, it's done during the embryo stage, not after the baby, puppy, or calf is born. Genetic material is switched into the embryo so that the baby will be a genetic match. And genetics is only part of the equation. The other half is environment. No idea. Did you know that? No idea. We're just
It's above my pay grade.
No, we're just playing. It's just a bit. It's just a joke. The desire to be so literal when it was very clearly not mentioned as a serious subject when it comes to cloning the great one. I God bless you, but it really isn't necessary. I think in the case of dog cloning, though, for people who have the means to do it, it's just the psychological feel. It's not like you're going to be able to prove that your former dog is in the new one. But it's comforting to think, right, that the genetic material, that they share the same genetic material. That's all it is. It's the sentimental aspect of it, regardless of whether, what was the name of the movie, A Dog's Purpose? You literally recognize your old dog in your new dog.
Yeah, it's just like having one of their puppies or having one of their...
exactly.
It's similar to that.
Very similar. That's exactly it. So it's not that tough. Cloning is dumb. Each personality is the rhythm of life. Yes, we know. It's okay. It's just...
Nature
just
versus nurture, Dan.
With it. Yeah, I guess that's got to be a lot of it. What did you miss if you tuned in late? Well, you might have heard us with Louie. He was with us at 5:30. We had Kevin Seifert in studio beginning at 4:15, and Seifert admitted that he was in a very difficult position, a very tough act to follow. And if you missed it, I would heartily recommend you podcast our 3:30 discussion that went to about 4:15 with Bobby Z and Morris Hayes. These are two individuals. Obviously, Bobby Z was Prince drummer. Morris Hayes worked in a later Prince band and has worked with pretty much everybody in popular music. And they stopped by in studio because of their connection to the new Purple Rain musical that is the technical premiere in the Twins in Minneapolis. I think State Theater is tomorrow night. And so we talked about their connection to the play, which is still very much a work in progress, trial and error, changing a lot of things. It'll eventually supposed to end up, obviously, in New York. But it was a great conversation about their input on the play and really some of their own reflections on working closely with Prince himself. It was really a fun 45 minutes, and frankly, we could have gone longer. We could have probably gone an hour. They spun some great yarns, both of them, on their relationship with Prince, the ups and downs, the tragedy, the trials, the tribulations, etc. So if you get a chance, if you missed it, I would heartily recommend that you podcast and listen to it later in the show, because we are a radio show, but then we are available later on podcast, which is still very different than being on a podcast on the front end. Very important difference, very important distinction that we like to indeed make. Let's do this. Let's wrap up the program. Big show tomorrow, which I think will include Mace, might include the Twins manager, and Kessler as well. So a little of everything tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks indeed for listening. It's Vikings programming heading into Minnesota Wild pregame show, and then the Wild right here in the Fan. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me,
And I've actually been touched by the Dalai Lama.
whenever you need me, I'll be there.
The stories a stadium could